being steamed for an hour and a half. Somehow or other it didn't turn to mush. Because he showed me just how to put the flame. Prabhupada was expert with everything. He was expert with the flame. Saying he showed me how to cook. One night he came in. Prabhupada, he would also have meals in the evening. Lunchtime was always the same. Rice, chapatis, dal, whatever vegetables were available where we were. I would make some combination, chawn some the way he showed me, a little bit of ghee. But in the evening, that was very wonderful. One evening he came in, do you know how to make paratha? I said, no, Prabhupada, I've never made. I'll show you. And then he said, make a chapati dough and call me when you're ready. So he went back into his room. I made a chapati dough. And I went, I said, Prabhupada, dough's ready. Then he came back to the room. This was in Los Angeles, New Dwarka. My kitchen was my room, sitting on the floor with just a 2x10 piece of wood on 2 cinder blocks, bucket of water, and a 2-burner gas stove that was connected to what used to be your heater, gas heater. That was the stove. So he came in, and of course we had the skillet, cast iron skillet. We put it on, put the heat on. So he said, now roll chapati. He said, but use ghee instead of flour. Ghee on the surface, ghee on the top, and roll it into a circle. And he's just watching me. He's having me do it, but he's watching. So then after I rolled the chapati made with ghee, he said, now you fold it in half and put some more ghee on the top and roll it again. He said, now put more ghee, and then of course you make it into quarters. So it looks like that, like a triangle, rounded triangle. But ghee everywhere, ghee, 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 ghee. Oil, Prabhupada says, for the outside of the body. We always fight that, don't we? Oil for the outside, ghee for the inside. Most healthy thing you can take. If you want your joints to feel good when you're in your 70s, you have to put ghee inside the body, lubrication. That's our oil for the engine. So ghee, everywhere ghee. So then on the skillet, he said, put some ghee. And then we put it on there. Of course, he said, put ghee on the top. Put ghee on the top. And they flipped it over. It's on a medium flame. Flipped it over, put more ghee on the top. 30 seconds or so, flip it over again, more ghee on the top. We have paratha. So nice, flaky paratha. So simple. The ghee, wonderful ghee. So, from Hawaii, next stop was Los Angeles. Another wonderful place, Los Angeles. Los Angeles was my favorite place, being with Srila Prabhupada. Everything was perfect, and so many devotees were eager to help. Prabhupada's servant, doing the laundry, doing this, doing that. We arrived and go up the stairs to Prabhupada's room, and he would often look out the windows from the sitting room. Get upstairs and he's looking out the window and he says to me, so Srutakirti Maharaj, how do you like it here in New Dwarka? And I say, oh, very nice, Prabhupada. He knew I liked it. 2 months later, he would say the same thing when we arrived in Mayapur. So Srutakirti Maharaj. There were the only 2 times he called me Maharaj. From Sruto, I became Srutakirti Maharaj. I was a Grahasta. He had a sense of humor, Prabhupada. How do you like it here in Mayapur? He said, oh, it's very nice, Prabhupada. Prabhupada liked it in Mayapur very, very much. Mayapur was so beautiful. The breezes were wonderful going through his room. So then it got interesting on this trip. After spending about a week in Los Angeles, he went to the next place, Mexico City. He had been there once or twice before. This was my first trip there. So many very nice devotees, pious people, Mexican people, pious. It was the first place I saw people that weren't 20 years old. Actually, their mothers were becoming devotees. You had people 40 years old, 50 years old in Mexico City. Hridayananda Maharaj, she would translate Prabhupada's lectures. Prabhupada would speak a few sentences, Hridayananda would translate. And Prabhupada, of course, was stressing this lifetime meant for becoming Krishna conscious. Use this lifetime for becoming Krishna conscious. So that at the time of death, you remember Krishna. Chant, that's why we chant, engage in service, read Prabhupada's books. We live in Vrindavan, and every week somebody's dying, coming to Vrindavan. It seems like God brother, God sister, they come there to die, just like Prabhupada went there when he was ready to leave his body. Every time Prabhupada was thinking his health wasn't good, he went to Vrindavan. So we have many devotees. The most recent one was Pankajanava. He went there 3 years ago, and he thought he was going to be dying any time. In a week, 2 weeks, a month, had a, what's it called, cystic fibrosis, I guess, very difficult breathing. 3 years he lasted, but he stayed there. He died, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. He was in the bathroom, his assistant was there. He was having trouble breathing. He said, Krishna, 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 boom, gone. Such perfect death. So in Mexico City, Prabhupada finished talking, and which didn't happen usually in the States, in the West. It was question and answers. And this woman, when I say woman, it meant she was like 50 years old, an older woman. When you're 18, 19, 20, somebody's 40 years old, you think they're old. And when we grew up, that was our motto, don't trust anyone over 30. And then we surrendered to Prabhupada, who was over 70. Him we trusted. We could trust Prabhupada. So she said, Prabhupada, you say the time of death we should remember Krishna. And she said, what if we remember you? And Prabhupada just smiled. He said, that's all right. Because all he did was give us Krishna. All he did. All he talked about. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Everything was Krishna. Then we had some really interesting thing. Prabhupada went from, well, Mexico City, one devotee came in. He had been a sannyasi. And between the 2 times Prabhupada was there, he went from being a sannyasi to being married and already had a son who he named Abai. But Prabhupada's in his room and he didn't see this devotee. So he said, where is he? Of course, the devotee says, well, he's here, Prabhupada, but he's embarrassed to come into your room. Prabhupada said, call him. So now I'm also in the room. Like I say, I'm a grahasta now, Prabhupada's servant. So he calls him into the room, and Prabhupada, of course, greets him. Big smile, how are you? Okay, Prabhupada, by your mercy. And he said, Prabhupada, he said, can I still serve you? Can I do service? Prabhupada looked at him. He said, I'm not Lord Chaitanya. He said, Lord Chaitanya, he could make the animals dance and chant. He said, but I need all the help I can get. So yes. And then he said, now you're a grahasta like Srutakirti. He said that a few times. I don't know whether it was a compliment or what it was, but he said, now you're a grahasta like Srutakirti. And he's saying, because I'm traveling with him. Usually, Prabhupada, the people traveling with him were grahastas. Their wives were somewhere, usually in Los Angeles in an apartment. Prabhupada didn't say you should go be with your wife. No, just the opposite. You're traveling with him. So he said, you carry on, do your service. So then the next morning, Prabhupada's going to Caracas, Venezuela. It would be his first trip there. And one of the Matajis made one of Prabhupada's favorites, muri. You all know what muri is, puffed rice. Puffed rice, peanuts, and ghee. And she just put it in aluminum foil and it was in a paper bag. So now we're on the airplane. Prabhupada sitting at the window. I'm in the middle seat. Next to me is Paramahamsa Swami Maharaj. We're all shaved heads, dhoti kurta, like that. So I'm between two sannyasis. It's very common for me my whole life. I find myself being around all these sannyasis, somehow or other. So there were different signals with Prabhupada. When you were Prabhupada's servant, you had to really be attentive. If you're a devotee, you really have to be attentive as a devotee. Sometimes we're not, but to be a devotee, actually, you're always attentive. Always. That's being a devotee. You're attentive because Krishna's everywhere. Krishna's doing everything. He told me, he called me in the room, Vrindavan. He said, first class servant, he knows what to do without being asked. Second class servant, you tell him what to do, and he does it. That's second class. Imagine, you have to be told what to do. That means you don't even know what you're doing. And third class servant, he says, he doesn't do it or he does it begrudgingly. Again, Prabhupada's wonderful English he had, the way he would say things. And looking back, I never thought about it, but when he called me in, he was probably telling me I should know that I'm supposed to do something. Instead of just saying, why don't you do this? He explains to you what your business is. This is how he would do things. You had to really pay attention. In Vrindavan, I knew. He would call me in the room, he'd go, that meant turn the fan on. He didn't say turn on the fan, he would just look. We'd look at his French doors, meant open up the curtains. He would just look. Everything. He didn't open his mouth unnecessarily just to say something. You had to know what you were supposed to do. So in the airplane, you have takeoff. So then what happens? In those time they had the no smoking signs as well. And we, of course, they had no smoking sections, which we were always in. But then what happens? You hear bing! And the fasten your seatbelt sign goes off. So what does that mean? It means Prabhupada's going to take prasadam now. Because the fasten seatbelt sign is off. Now you can put the tray table down. Prabhupada really enjoyed prasadam. Can say that. We see so many things, we have different devotees will say this, and Prabhupada said ideal diet is, just some fruit and milk, but that's not what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada took prasadam. 3 times a day he had dairy. 3 times a day, every meal. Hot milk every night. Hot, very hot milk. So the light goes out. Time for prasadam. He didn't have to say, time for prasadam. I know already. He just looks at you. What are you waiting for? I'm hungry. So I put his table down, open the bag, aluminum foil, open up the aluminum foil with puffed rice. puffed rice and peanuts, and I put it before Prabhupada. And Paramahamsa and I were just sitting next to him. We would just sit quietly. That's what you did. You couldn't talk unless you were going to talk some pastimes of Krishna or something. No small talk. Prabhupada never did small talk. And he didn't want to hear anyone else. He would say gossip. He didn't say prajalpa, he would say gossip. There's all this gossip, he said, destroys your Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada, we know how nicely. And of course, he didn't say, Sarira Vijajal, the Chandritai. No. Just started taking prasadam. Throw it in his mouth. He didn't put his fingers in his mouth. You just push it in there, magically. Some things Prabhupada did we thought was magic when we first saw it. When we saw how he drank water without the cup touching his lips, to us that was like, wow, who does that? Everyone does that in India, but for us it was mystical. Prabhupada told them early on how in India he would sit in the back seat of the car, and the devotees were thinking, he had mystic powers. He's sitting in the back seat and the car's moving. They didn't think he had a driver. So he eats half of it. Why did he eat half of it? Because he has two servants next to him who he has to see. They also have to take prasadam. He could have eaten all of it, but he's conscious, he's thoughtful, always thinking of everyone else. So he ate half, and then he looked at me and said, now you can take. Very simple. So now I move it over to my tray, and close his tray, and I put it in two pieces, rip the aluminum foil down the middle, half to Paramahamsa, half to me. And now we're eating Prabhupada's Maha Prasadam. Yes, I was very fortunate. I had so much Maha Prasadam from Prabhupada. So now we're eating, and this flight attendant, a young lady, she's walking down the aisle. And of course, we say we stuck out like a sore thumb. Everybody, and this is Caracas, Venezuela. Nobody knows who Hare Krishnas are. They've never seen such things. Shaved heads, paint on our foreheads, funny clothes, very colorful. So she was walking down and she stops right in front of Paramahamsa. And she gets her hand and she reaches past Paramahamsa, puts her hand in my plate of puffed rice and takes it and puts it in her mouth. Incredible. The most amazing thing. Paramahamsa, he's still eating. He doesn't care. We're devotees. Prasadam, nothing. You're having prasadam, hurricanes can be going on. You're going to eat your prasadam. You've been waiting for 4 hours since your last meal. We're very hungry. And Prabhupada, he's just sitting there. He never pays any attention. He was in his own world, literally. The most fun being with Prabhupada was when he was outside of the temple. In the temple, we always knew, but when he was outside, you never knew what was going to happen. That same light, when plane's landing, boom, fasten your seatbelt light goes on. So what does that mean? It means Prabhupada's going to go use the bathroom because the plane's going to land soon. Stewardess says, oh, sit down. Prabhupada, like he doesn't even understand English. Just walking, and I have to follow him. And she's saying, you sit down. And I'm like, sorry, I gotta follow this person. He went into the bathroom, and I'm outside the door standing there. And then he opens the door, big smile on his face. He said, when you're old, you can do anything you want. Then we went and sat down. So the woman, she eats the puffed rice, and she looks at me. She said, this is very good. She said, what is it? No, it was puffed rice. She said, well, why are you, I said, well, we have we're vegetarian, we have special diet. It was all brand new to her. And she goes, oh, she said, can I get you anything else? Would you like anything else? No one else is getting anything. So I look at Prabhupada, hot milk. So I said, we'll all have hot milk, because whatever he does, we do. At least when it comes to prasadam, we weren't getting up at midnight, but when it came to prasadam with Prabhupada, we're having it. So she said, okay. She said, would you like anything else? She said, I can go into first class. And I look at Prabhupada, because he doesn't talk to her. I'm the translator from the spiritual to the material. I'm in between. I'm on the tushta there, like right in between. Prabhupada says, fruit. I said, we'll all have fruit, because we're going to, whatever Prabhupada does, we're going to do. I said, okay. She said, I have bread, cheese, crumbs. Okay. So she goes, she comes back with the cart. While she's gone, I said, Prabhupada, I said, that was amazing. The fact that you took is Mahaprasadam. We would kill each other to get the Prabhupada's plate. After he ate, I'd be holding the plate. Devotees would do anything to get there, get his Maha. And she grabbed it. Super salt. And when I said it was amazing, Prabhupada said, oh, he said, women like to serve. He didn't acknowledge her taking his Mahaprasadam. He just acknowledged that she wanted to do something. He wanted to bring us milk, bring us food. So he ignored the fact that she grabbed Prabhupada's puffed rice from my plate, which was also peculiar because I was in the middle. I wasn't in the aisle seat, so who knows? I don't even understand. So then she came back with everything, and we set it up. I do everything because I'm the servant. Put the milk, the Prabhupada.